Today we are driving the Zeekr 7X, one of the most promising new EV SUVs. And the question is, can it crush the traditional car manufacturers? For example, with a charging 10 to 80% in 10 minutes. More interesting facts to come with this vehicle here. What batteries do they offer and so on. And how good is the driving actually? Is it more about the facts and numbers? Or can they really deliver also in the hard facts on the road? We'll find out. Here is Thomas Nautical Fuel in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the Zeekr 7X with a very clean, closed look here in the front. The light strip goes all the way through from this daytime running light. So yeah, this is a, let's say in a way typical EV design, but I think the design works very well. And then the headlamp unit underneath, but I think it's way integrated in that one. This here, the so-called Privilege trim, is the high trim level. These are also the biggest 21-inch wheels here with contrasting brake calipers, only available in the Privilege trim. You also get 19 or 20-inch wheels in the other trim levels. The length here is 4.79 meters or 189 inches. So it's in this typical EV SUV segment where most cars are being sold. For example, also the Tesla Model Y. You can get a contrasting roof here in black, for example, here today in our silver color. And you have either a rear-wheel drive model as an entry or an all-wheel drive model. We have the all-wheel drive model here for you today. And then the acceleration figure is at 3.8 seconds. So really quick indeed. And battery sizes, you start with a smaller LFP battery. They call it golden battery because it's their internal battery. That is also the one that can charge so quickly. 10 minutes is possible. At a charger that cannot cope at 13 minutes. And this battery there is 75 kilowatt hours gross, so about 72 kilowatt hours net. And then there's a bigger NMC battery, 100 kilowatt hours gross, it's about 96 kilowatt hours net. And the latter battery will charge in about 16 minutes, but it's more about, do you have the charger that is quick enough to cope with this vehicle? That's the thing, actually. And here in the rear, you can see once again this light strip going through. Also, once again, a very clean design. Zeekr has a European headquarter as well, so they try to be as European as possible, both from design and also from the build quality and so on, but will also work in driving. This one here, by the way, the Privilege trim, also offers an air suspension, and later we're going to talk about the prices. It's very interesting. The entry price for this vehicle here is at 53,000 euros. Of course, it can spec it up a little bit higher like this one here, but it won't change too much. So the main thing about today is really looking at the price-performance ratio. Charging clip, by the way, on the driver's side is also electric. And what's also interesting is that it comes with 22 kilowatt AC charging. That's, of course, also a very helpful thing. Pressing a button, then also close it again. The rear-wheel drive only model is also very interesting, by the way, because that acceleration is already at just 6 seconds, so also pretty cool. So this combination, the smaller LFP battery with a very quick charging together with the rear-wheel drive, very interesting. However, especially when launching the vehicle, they make, let's say, that the top version quite close in the price to the base version, so that's also something to consider. The base version is called Core. Now, I'm also going to tell you more about the interior differences very soon. Top speed, by the way, is 210 kilometers an hour or 130 miles per hour, so that will also be suitable for the German Autobahn. This is the key fob here in this very light, small design, squircle alike. And then here you can also press it here on the key fob, and then it opens the frunk. Pretty cool, actually. You can directly open it from the key fob. Nice installation. It's not a big one, but maybe a small charging cable does fit in there. And yeah, the good thing is that you can really easily open that and don't have to do another unlock mechanism or something. Before we get to the interior details, it's Leah's part here. We're showing you a special feature because you can close the automatic doors with a press on the brake. There we go. Yeah, works very nicely. And we know this feature, Tesla has been introducing that. There we go. BMW also followed with the i7 and now also in the Zeekr 7X. And the door closing sound when you close it manually, yeah, I mean, still somewhat okay. Now it's my turn here with the key fob. That's how it's looking like. And usually when you open or close the vehicle, these door handles would come towards you. If you don't have the automatic...
Only the mirror.
Yeah, it's only the mirror that goes in and out. It's nice that it's also like this frameless mirror style indeed, like Polestar and Volvo has been using, which also makes sense because Zeekr is belonging to the GD Group, Chinese corporation that owns Volvo, Polestar, Zeekr, Lynk & Co, some more. But here, these are the automatic doors in the Privilege trim. And there are different features. For example, then here, press this button to open it. And then when there's, I think I wasn't quite fast enough. And that's also the thing with the automatic doors. So, I mean, it's a good thing that it stops, because here, for example, I'm standing here, it's not opening actually, and even not hitting me. That's actually a good thing. So, but that also means that you have to be quickly away, like here, pressing and then make way, then it properly opens. Then, as Leah showed, you can either hit the brake to close it again, or you can hit this button here, then it also closes. Or you can also close it with this button again. Wait a minute, is it? I mean, it would theoretically be possible, you know, like not the most convenient solution, but you can actually also, like, I mean, it does work. So yeah, why not? But honestly, I would actually. Did you also press it now? Yeah. So we did it now simultaneously.
It's not that far away than
yeah,
this one, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is also quite far away, right? But then the thing is, like, if you want to do it manually, then you're of course working against the electric motors, and it's kind of weird to move it. So I'm honestly a fan of just manual doors. This is over-engineering, I think. What do you think? Because we also been testing it in the BMW 7 Series, where it was also getting on my nerves after a while, so I would get one without. There's also like the low trim levels available that don't have it. Here, by the way, interesting, inside of the doors you have this small cubby hole, where we also already had interesting ideas what to put there. Some said tissues, or like using it as a small waste bag or something like that. But yeah, you shouldn't put it, maybe like for waste paper or whatever, but nothing for
sunglasses.
Or sunglasses. Yeah, maybe like that. There we go. The lower door sill is not covered here from the inside though, but a rubber pad on the lower floor, at least here inside. And then also some nice stitching on the lower part. So this is cool. And also here, really high-class window levers with clicking sounds and so on. And the seating position here.
Entry badge?
Yeah, entry sill badge here. So also looks quite cool. And yeah, it makes a good quality impression from the first side already. Here with 189, 6'2". Still some headroom left. This is here a fixed panoramic roof. We can apply a manual shade electrically. I can soon show it to you. A lot of seat controls, and look at that, like a Bentley style knurling here. The steering wheel, you can see you still have manual controls. For example, here for the volume, and this is also how you control the steering wheel movement if you are in that steering wheel setting mode that is then saved with your user account. Also quite cool turning indicator here. Like there's like a small structure on it, so really attention to detail. And also found something pretty cool. When you click through here, the instrument menu, you also get to a climate unit, and then you can actually use the scroll wheel at the steering wheel to change the temperature. So that's a cool integration. If you just heard some background noise, by the way, these were playing kids in the background, just that you know. So here now in the cockpit overview, it's actually really clean, 16-inch touchscreen, soon more deals to that. Then here also covered on the top dash, and here as well, that's nice. To fold down the glove box is here, smoothly dampened, and you have the separate button for that here, so you don't have to do it in the screen actually. 2 inductive charging pads, they are also ventilated, that's cool. Middle console here, nice quality, slide this one open, a smooth process. Cup holders can be stored or brought out again. That's actually cool. And the structure inside, this is a split armrest, either like this or like this, so you can open it to both sides. This is actually where you can exactly put the key fob if you like. So that would work as well. And a lot of space here.
It's nice for
underneath.
your OCD.
Yeah, OCD compliant. Then quick look at the seats here. Isofix already on the passenger seat. And the rule is like that. The core, the base level, has fabric on the inside. Leatherette on the outside would be an animal-free seat. The steering is not animal-free. And here in the Privilege trim, or at this moment included also in the mid-trim level, later on it will be an option, then you can also have the animal skin. And it is, good quality comfort-wise. But of course, I would suggest the fabric seat to be animal-free and more sustainable. At the same time, it's also tested it, the fabric seat. It is even a little bit more comfortable. But the seating in general from the ergonomics is really comfortable and nicely done. Why? It's about the seating depth. So here, like this, when I push it right here, like what is underneath, the bolstering underneath, this seating depth is extremely important for the comfort. You could have done the same with the high-grade leatherette, which you see here also on the outside, for example, because here's also a mix. So some parts are animal origin and some are artificial. and you would need to look in the booklet what is what actually. And here the position, you have the classic interface with the steering wheel and so on, then everything digitalized in the screen. Also the climate unit, I do prefer manual switches for that definitely, but at least everything is fast. Gotta say that this is one of the fastest screens. Look at that. I mean, also here this visualization of the car, where you can also activate some features like the frunk, also the top cover, windows, trunk and so on. It's extremely quick, also quicker than in the Zeekr 001, which we recently also tested again. Android Auto, Apple CarPlay integration is also there. So they are ticking all the boxes, except maybe like a manual climate unit. That would be cool here in the lower part. But there are some, like here, for example, to open the trunk is here. Then here, a manual volume job that can also be done from the passenger side. And this is like a, oh, what is this? Why does it, oh, is it like a favorite? I'm so sorry. Actually, can we check it again? Maybe we step back a little bit. Obviously, oh. So this button at this moment closes the passenger door. Didn't know about that. Does it open it again? No, open it does not, but it just closes it. So I almost squished Leah with that. You damn button. Here, when you press and hold the favorite button, then a menu pops up and then you can switch between different functions of this button. The driver POV here on the left side, this by the way for the cruise control. Then the digital instruments look like this. Speed is right there. And then you also get a head-up display, at least here in the highest trim level. And the main infotainment unit, already took a glimpse of that here, how quick, how fast it is. These are all the vehicle settings. You can here switch between a dark and a bright mode. I usually prefer the dark mode, and you can also adjust the brightness. Here you can also set different driving settings, for example, and everything is really
so quick,
super quick. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Here seat massage is also available, for example. Once again, also here how the response is there. And then you have this, sorry, this maybe with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, this integration is also possible. What do you want to show?
It's okay.
It's okay?
Yeah.
You just want to try out some stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually fun to try out stuff here because, again, it works so quickly. And this is the Zeekr app here, so you can also remotely control stuff. For example, when you're outside the vehicle, like sitting at home, you also want to preheat your seat. That is possible. Yeah, so actually quite cool. You can also here activate the climate before and so on. By the way, included here in the so-called advanced cockpit pack is the 21 speaker Zeekr sound system, and I gotta say it's really good. It's really good. So very crystal clear sound, and like when you have like the bass coming, it's not like just boom, but it's like more like, you know, like a fine like a fine bass experience. So that's really impressive. Rear seats also very interesting. Here inside of the door, everything wrapped. It's also ambient light integration. At the moment it's too bright, but you can maybe see it on the inside very soon. And then here this is the automatic button to close the door from the inside as well. And then some rubber pad on the lower part of the door, but otherwise it's hard. But then again, it's like nicely stitched on the lower part. And here we have more controls. So first of all, this is here the window control, like this. And I can also raise the shade with that, but it doesn't work when the door is opened. I can soon show you on the other side with the closed door. And then here, these two, they do work already. This is here to put this seat here, the passenger seat, to the front. So if I'm going to enjoy like a taxi ride or something and I want to push this one here as much forward as possible for this luxurious seating position. Let's see how far it does go on a maximum scale. That goes really wide. Look at that. Oh, wow. I mean, it's just like missing that I can have like the footrest to be folded here. That would be only thing missing probably. I mean, look at that. That is something, right?
The door opens very wide.
And the door opens very wide. Yeah, it's also...
Degrees,
Also, yeah, almost 90 degrees. It's good actually for the child seats. Isofix here also on the outside of the rear seat. And then we have these lower controls like here, because we can change the angle of the seat electrically. So this is like another luxury feature, and also connected to this one here, because when it's upright, then it's also upright here. So here's some space underneath, USB-C charging, USB-A charging, somewhat adaptive cup holders here, and now it's upright. But the thing is, when you have it in a relaxed position, then also this one leans a little bit backward. Gotta take care of your beverages then, for sure. And then here on my side, I can show you when I'm driving, I'm still having lot of legroom. So the usage of space here is really enormous, really good. And once again here also that you can see the difference when the seat is more upright or when it's more in the relaxed position. But even here in the upright position, yeah, still fits with the headroom 189, 602. At the moment here the panoramic roof has the open shade. You can close the shade there as well. Here now you can see a little bit more how the ambient lighting looks definitely. Very comfortable here in the rear end. When I now also pull this lever here, I can put up the manual shade. Pretty cool. Yeah, and covers, yeah, here's like some gaps here, left and right. Jacket hanger here as well. And again, I can also fold it back again.
No.
I don't know, maybe it's like, there we go. So maybe the car didn't want that at first. Yeah, but it's a very cool and clean solution. And as I said, it's very comfortable here in the rear. So something to relax with, a lot of space indeed. And then here in the lower part, you have
This is nice. The
like,
Zeekr logo.
oh,
here.
the Zeekr logo, like also like detail work here. And here also nice clicking sounds for this small storage unit. This looks like a, I don't know, what would I put there actually?
Tissues.
Tissues maybe, I don't know. You suggest something about that. Yeah, but I think the most impressive thing is like this taxi driver position, although the driver itself can only hardly look to the side mirror then, but really rarely do we see in a car at that size so much space here in the rear. And due to, look at that, I mean the panoramic roof really goes till the end of the vehicle, so to speak. From there I can also show you how does it look like when I close the shade. I was thinking, can I hold it? No, there we go. So there we go, and then you can see like how much it is and how much is closed. Now it's getting dark. There we go. Oh, look at that, it's like so long it needs like this two splits. Interesting, yeah, because I mean it has to stay somewhere. Interesting, you know, I'm usually it's rolled. Not sure how that is working in the back there, but yeah, definitely a very impressive rear experience. And Leah has discovered another feature for you, and that is underneath the rear seat. Look at that. There are some more storage possibilities. You can pull these here
It's
out.
really cool, I think.
That's actually a nice idea,
And
definitely.
here with the Zeekr logo.
It's also an imprinted logo, yeah. So what would you guys put there actually underneath the seat? Maybe like the emergency vests or something?
doggo
Or
leash.
the dog leash, yeah, why not? The Zeekr lettering is here, by the way, integrated behind the windscreen in the rear. It's very interesting. And the knob for the trunk or the boot is just right here underneath the rear view camera, like there. And we have 540 liters. But what does that actually mean? First of all, here you have these two dots here each. Like from this end, it looks like it would be just like wet or something, but I don't know. It's like it's attachment for this one here underneath. Yeah, maybe for some additional stability. Then you can slide away this here. You see the trolley fits also vertically underneath. Then in the width we have here about 1.40 meters, a little bit wider than in the very front. Here underneath there is some space. You can also pull it up like this. That's a good solution here for the charging cable, for example. And then you can also like fold this one here a little bit like this. That works. And I see now. These are actually magnets. See, like here. Then it's holding like this. Oh, interesting solution.
Nice,
Definitely. That's interesting. To fold the seats, however, there is no remote unlock here. Quickly just here that showing that you can also lift up this one here, the second part. You can also take it out completely. That would be possible. The height then, the total height from the cover to here is 27 inches or it's like 69 centimeters. Could be higher than though if we put this one, and then the total height is about 34 inches or 86 centimeters. And now about the folding, as I said, either go around or I mean if you reach over like this here, that is also working. You have to push it a little bit, so yeah, not the most convenient solution, but it does work. There we go. And then everything folds flat. Ski hatch is also available. And then here, this is almost a full ruler, like 2 meters or 78 inches. So indeed, well usable. Sport mode. Woo! So that was 0 to 90 kilometers an hour. Yeah, 3.8 seconds is the acceleration to 100. Really powerful, instant, so to speak. Gotta say though that I don't have, let's say, like the best feeling for the car when accelerating.
Yeah,
So
steering was.
it's was actually a little bit out of control. Gotta say that. You can also adjust the steering mode a little bit. Here, setting out also to sport to get a little bit more feedback, but it's a little bit steering through thin air, so you don't have the best feeling for it. And just yesterday I drove the 001, their estate, and there it was way better actually, the steering feel. But here a little bit you feel that it's set, let's say, on the looser note, so to speak. So here just distance to the bicyclist, so there we go. Yeah, so I think that needs more tuning, more resistance and so on. I mean, power-wise, there's still so much going on, definitely, no doubt about that. Definitely, rear-wheel drive version will also be enough for you. I've also set the dampening mode of the adaptive air suspension we have here to sport at this moment to get a little bit more feedback. We also have less rolling and so on. And I think, oh, that's like the brake warning here, once again, for the cyclists. But I think from the suspension, so far it's doing quite well. We do have the effect though, and also when I look over to Leah and see her face getting more and more white color, I mean, it's a general effect of these really heavy EVs that you move so much weight and that it does do just some stress on your body. But here I felt it's like especially the thing that, especially for the co-drivers, for the passengers, it's not so good when you have this agile driving, you know. I mean, the car doesn't lean too much, gotta say that, but still you feel, yeah, it's moving in an unpleasant way that you tend to get a little bit sick when doing the agile driving. Besides that, the acceleration is always there, like just a little bit on the throttle, and it's going like crazy indeed. Yeah, almost more than you might think is really necessary. Yeah, but as I said, I would like to have more control with the steering. At this moment, I have set the regenerative braking to standard. You can also set it to strong. If I then lift my foot off the throttle, then I have even stronger braking, and I can also set a one pedal driving that really comes to a stop. So this is both possible, actually. But here at this moment, I've rather set it to a softer note that it doesn't create too much stress on Leah, actually. Yeah, so also if we compare the 001, for example, I feel that when you're driving that one, it's better in the driving. It once again confirms this difference estate versus SUV, that when you drive the SUVs, they're always, you know, higher building. They cannot be that good in the driving performance. We did have some rare SUVs which were even suitable for driving on the racetrack, although they were heavy, like an Audi RSQ8 or Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT. The best examples for that, I've been driving that one on the racetrack and even had a lot of fun driving these ones on the racetrack. That's not the case here. So, I mean, it's also not the focus of this vehicle. I want to start with the agile driving to see how it's capable, how it's possible. And that's also the thing, if you compare then the German premium manufacturers, you can put a lot of hate on them, yes, and it's also being done. And in some cases, maybe also righteous, but in other cases not. And they here with Zeekr, they set a tone on so many different tech facts, especially like when you think about charging and price performance. But driving-wise, you do feel they are not just there yet, you know. So, but that's also just one aspect of the vehicle. Of course, we're going to test more aspects here throughout this driving review for you. Yeah, now some more narrow corners here, and we can also put the dampening mode from sport to comfort. It's also possible. Of course, we have more comfort than clearly feel that directly. I mean, for the passenger, it's actually better when you have it in sport mode, that the car doesn't shake up too much. But even in the comfort mode, I feel that the air suspension is not set on the softest note, honestly. So, yeah, it's always a matter of preference, definitely. But the thing remains that it's not the most pleasant car to drive for the agile surrounding. But when you leave it a little bit calmer, drive a little bit slower, then everything comes together. So at lower speeds, the noise insulation is really good. Looking forward how it behaves soon on the motorway and so on. you know, also like the seating depth of the seats, very good, very nice. As I said, the fabric seats are even a little bit more comfortable, but the ergonomics is also good. And then the air suspension, and you just relax then in a way, you know. And then you can also look over to your passenger and say like, yeah, everything is fine again if you put everything in a more relaxed manner. And once again, you have to think about at the price where they are offering this vehicle with all the features we get. I mean, even the base spec is practically fully spec'd and even has some advantages. As I said, like no automatic doors, you have a manual control of the steering wheel column, for example, in the base setting. By the way, we are also driving something, you know, with the internal GPS, and I feel it's also actually quite responsive. So rarely do we see that the internal GPS are really usable, but so far I think it does a good job. And they also have included here the calculation for a charging stop when you are having like a very long route and so on, that it tells you like when and where to charge and so on. So that's also included here in this car internal GPS. And now we go to the off-road mode for some soft off-roading. And I see the comments incoming, my 2003 Ford Fiesta can do that. That's always the, I mean, no matter what you do off-road, even if you do the hard...
Oh, it feels good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, Liag likes it. So off-road mode actually pumps up the car for better ground clearance. That means it will get less comfortable because you have like reduced dampening in one direction. You know, oh, nice cactus. I love cactus. Looks awesome. I have one next to my computer at home. One of those. So, and here the good thing is, of course, if you have air suspension when off-roading, it makes it still softer, although there are some bumps and potholes and everything. But at the same time, I increased the ground clearance to just to be a little bit safer than as for that. Yeah, I mean, as long as we don't have like really high obstacles, you can also deactivate the off-road mode and go in like normal driving and so on. That's fine. Here's some water as well. And then you feel it is actually a little bit more comfortable when it's in the normal height setting. But I mean, they also ask us to activate the off-road mode just to prevent any damages from the vehicles. Here now we have some ruts already forming. I like to, you know, like drive sand and stuff. That's what I love in off-roading because it's really smooth. But here so far, car's giving us a nice feeling for that. Also somehow fits to the vehicle. It also can do that. Yeah, especially with the air suspension, you're a little bit more flexible. You know, it's getting a little bit rougher. And for that, actually, the steering that is not that responsive for off-roading then, it's actually quite good. Also always important then in off-roading to keep your thumbs not in the steering wheel, so, but rather on the steering wheel, if there's any feedback from the road to the steering. But I mean, it shouldn't be the case that much here, right? Because there's, you know, everything is done electronically here. Yeah. Anyways.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Fun, yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. So yeah, when
Better than the corners.
so Leah is more a fan of off-roading, most obviously, and yeah, I mean it is quite rough terrain here. At least it has rained in the past days, so that's making it a little bit softer, also just from the surface. But cool thing always with the electric vehicles, the all-wheel drive is working really flawlessly. You know, you can finely dose your throttle. There's no slip on the wheels and so on. And these electric all-wheel drives are really so capable. So actually, when you have an electric vehicle, it is an advantage off-road driving. And here, once again, of course, the off-road model is also doing a good job driving some up the hill here. And now, motorway acceleration, 50 to 100. That's it.
Wow.
Oy. That's some stuff. Yeah, I really like a rocket for sure. And I mean, the motorway part will be, I feel, even more interesting to really find out. Yeah, but like this home button is like for me hidden behind the steering wheel. Just realized that. I mean, so I always have to look. There's the home button. Look here to, you know, check out everything or go back to something else. So the motorway part to me will be even more interesting to really see what this car is made of. Here, first of all, in that corner. I mean, as I said, as long as you don't push it too hard, the driving behavior is really, really nice. Also smooth, especially from the suspension and so on. Yeah, and then let's see, put it to 120 kilometers an hour here. I mean, even if you just slide in the throttle, it's so quickly right there. And let's see about the noise insulation, and things so far so good. I mean, here at 120 kilometers an hour, 75 miles an hour, reasonably silent. I mean, today is nicer weather and also less wind. So yesterday we were driving the 001. This one is more silent now, but could also be due to less wind and due to the weather and so on. So that might also be a thing, you know. You don't really know about that. Yeah, and let's just drive like a little bit of motorway here, a little bit further as well. Ignore the GPS there for a moment. I also want to check out here the cruise control. There we go. So you can either go for normal cruise control, and then you can also set the speed right here, or when you like press twice, then the LCC is activated. This one is also an active lane keeping assist. I'll reduce the speed here though now. Of course, that's like the speaker will do it one more time when we can. But so far it's also really calm. I've set the dampening mode on comfort. It's also fine for the motorway. Let's see here, lane change. It indeed gives you a very smooth driving experience, and as I said, like on the most agile roads, didn't feel too much at home, but here on the motorway it does feel really at home, definitely. One more acceleration. I mean, it's really lift off there in the front. Yeah, a little behaving like a boat and with that air suspension, and at least when accelerating. But it really feels very nice on the motorway, definitely. Also from suspension here now, I'm happy to leave it in the comfort mode. Lane change at 120 kilometers an hour, nicely done, not shaking up too much. So it's actually pretty cool. And here, once again, let's test the lane keeping. So I think twice, then LCC is activated, and let's see how is the car being kept in the lane actively. Is it hectic or is it smooth from the steering movement? Here, so far so good. See here, the motorway is bending a little bit. Also a smooth process indeed, that's cool. Let's see the automatic lane change. Lane change in progress. There we go. Yeah, nicely done. So that's actually pretty cool. Not to hear any annoying sounds, you have to go through some maneuvers while driving. I mean, that's the one thing here with the overspeed alert, that's the easiest to deactivate. But here now that you are also not disturbed, we have deactivated some other stuff here also while driving. For example, also that there's driver distraction alert. So that is usually a little bit annoying. That always when I'm just like, I don't know, sometimes it comes like after 2 seconds of maybe you're just looking for 1 second to the screen over, then it goes like beep, 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 driver attention alert, and you can deactivate it, but you have to do it over and over again, you know, so some things are annoying, but I mean, driving the first Zeekrs a couple of years ago, and the development now is really astonishing, so like how fast the development is in the software application and to get customer feedback and so on, that is really, really well done. So I can just say here, driving on the motorway gives me a very, very good feeling of the vehicle overall, and of course it will be even more interesting what we can score as the final consumption. And now we jumped into the long range model with 20-inch wheels and without air suspension, so this mid-trim model, so to speak. This one already has the big battery, but not the air suspension, as I said, and yeah, one wheel size smaller. The smallest would be 19, as we shown you on the core model. And it's very interesting what's happening here. So first of all, I picked here a road where it's super, super bumpy. And when you ride through destroyed road, yeah, there the air suspension definitely helps. So it is rougher with this base suspension here. At the same time, we have the 20-inch wheels, which are a little bit small, so we have more dampening from the tire. 19-inch, of course, would be even more comfortable. So on the one hand, I would say if you don't have an air suspension model, then rather go for the entry model and go with 19-inch wheels. Even if they're maybe not looking so great, they will be then better in the comfort. Yes, so you gain comfort with the air suspension, that's kind of clear. But we also have to say, you know, we've been talking about this effect that especially passenger and possibly also the driver can get sick, especially when the car is heavy and then, you know, maybe like also shaking around or something. And we feel actually that this has been diminished a little bit here when you go for the base suspension. So yes, it's stiffer and less comfortable in a way, but that makes it also, let's say, a little bit more controllable. So also when I'm going like some left and right and so on, it doesn't seem to, act in a different way like with the air suspension. And even more astonishing, even if I just let the steering mode here on the standard, it's really astonishing that it feels different to steer this vehicle in and out of the corners. And I would have not expected that actually. So curious find here. This car is better to steer, better to control than with the air suspension. And yeah, that's
wobbly.
yeah, not that wobbly,
It's
says
straight
Leah.
and
So
upright.
yeah, I mean, when you always have destroyed roads, then the air suspension might be a good idea. But then again, they
Or for off-road.
yeah, off-roading, yes. But then again, they force this combination of air suspension and 21-inch wheels in the Privilege trim, so that, kind of, yeah, doesn't make too much sense. Honestly, yes, for design reasons maybe, but I think the 20-inch wheels also look great design-wise. Talked to the designer just before riding this car, and even he said himself, who designed this vehicle, that the 20-inch wheels are looking great, and he would actually go from these best greetings as well, yeah. Yeah, but again, the 19-inch wheels, they have the most aero look effect, but they're actually also good in a way that they have the better comfort then. So, I mean, I like a soft air riding comfort, but especially here for this like SUV, I had a similar result recently with the Volvo XC90. And also there were some comments from you. There was someone who was confirming that with the XC90, that, for example, the base suspension, which also has been upgraded, gives you a better ride for the vehicle than with the air suspension. And although we do lose some soft comfort here, I feel that the overall driving experience, how the car is feeling, how driver, car, and road are basically one, is actually somewhat better with the base suspension. So, not kidding at all. I would really go for like a couple of reasons I found with the review. Go for the low or the mid-trim model. So yeah, curious finding. Wouldn't have expected that one. So what about the consumption here on our testing route with a lot of autobahn, a lot of motorway share, but speeds to maximum about 120 kilometers an hour, 75 miles an hour, but also some city driving share, countryside driving share. Good temperatures around 19 degrees Celsius, so like 69 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. So good for the battery. And here we scored some around 22 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers. That's roughly 3 miles per kilowatt hour. What you did realize is that on the motorway, as soon as you go like 120 kilometers an hour, 75 miles an hour, or a little bit above that, then it goes really up more towards 23, towards 24 kilowatt hours in 1 kilometers. And that's something we've seen with a lot of other GD Corporation vehicles in general, of course, with EVs, but especially here. So it will be way less efficient also at higher speeds on the motorway. We have to test it in Germany, where we can legally also drive that. But here, let's say in most countries and in good climate conditions, then the real world range would be around then with this consumption here for this big battery at about 440 kilometers or some 265 miles, and then a little bit less accordingly, of course, for the smaller battery. As for pricing, that's also the real problem for the traditional manufacturers. As said, it starts 53,000 euros. And when you go full spec, all-wheel drive, bigger battery, Privilege trim, they offer it at the moment for 63,000 euros, for example, the Dutch pricing, so in the Netherlands. And that's of course a problem, because a comparable vehicle from the Germans, for example, would be probably double the price, with all the spec and so on. There are still some differences, and the German cars are still doing stuff very, very well, and they still have their fans, and they're still very good cars, But the problem is that here from the Chinese manufacturer, they can produce in a way cheaper way, actually. And, Geely, the mother corporation where also Volvo belongs to, Zeekr is one of their other brands, Lynk & Co is another brand. And they also use economies of scale, like the other traditional groups and so on. Yeah, so gotta say that especially like this price-performance ratio is really astonishing with this vehicle here. Although there are still some things maybe where they're not top of the game. But let's say, in German we said, die Luft wird dünn. well, the air is getting thin for the traditional manufacturers if they here can offer such a vehicle with this build quality at that pricing. I would wish for animal-free seats also in the higher trim. It's only possible with the core trim, but these fabric seats are also really good, so definitely also something to consider. And in Europe, they start with some markets first, like Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, where they are really, keen on electric vehicles, and they have like a very high share, and the tax models are oriented on that. And then they're thinking about expanding to other markets. But since the European Union has also put tariffs on Chinese imported vehicles, it's also been a little bit trickier, so their rollout to other markets is definitely harder than initially thought. What do you think about here, the Zeekr 7X? Tell me in the comments, and also check out the competition.